Now at 5, we are tracking new information in the Brian Kohberger case. The family of one of the 4 victims plans to sue Washington State University. In Sandpoint, advocates sounding the alarm about a proposed change to Sandpoint's non-discrimination ordinance. We'll break down what's at stake and what both sides are saying.
Mostly cloudy and mild the next couple of days, but by next week we could be talking some serious cold across the inland northwest.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 5 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan. We start at this hour with a big development in the Brian Kohberger case. The family of Kaylee Gonzalez, one of the 4 University of Idaho students murdered by Kohberger in 2022, plans to sue Washington State University. Kohberger was working on a PhD in criminology at WSU at the time of the murders. The Gonzalez family saying in a statement that they are looking for accountability from the university. The family goes on to say they want to understand what went wrong and to ensure no other family endures the same tragedy. We learned earlier this year that WSU students and faculty expressed concerns about his misogynistic behavior. Court documents show one professor even told a colleague once that if the university gives Kohberger a PhD, he will become a professor who is, quote, harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students, end quote. WSU President Elizabeth Cantwell said in a statement the university cannot comment in detail, but she extended her condolences and says she stands with all who are mourning. In North Idaho news tonight, the city of Sandpoint is looking to make some big changes at tonight's city council meeting, amending an ordinance that's supposed to protect people from discrimination. KREM 2's Christian Garza went to Sandpoint to talk with city leaders about what's on tonight's agenda.
Tonight, both city council and community members will meet here in this room to decide on whether or not to amend the city's non-discrimination ordinance. This ordinance passed more than 13 years ago as part of a citywide movement which claimed to protect community members and visitors alike from discrimination. Now, City Council is voting to potentially amend the non-discrimination ordinance to more closely reflect both state and federal laws. Under current Idaho state law, people must use the bathrooms consistent with their gender at birth at specific locations like schools and other state-run facilities. But in 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that discrimination based on sex also includes gender identity and sexual orientation, meaning people who identify with a certain gender are allowed in these spaces, something Idaho State Senator Jim Woodard tells our reporting partners at the Bonner County Daily Bee will be revisited by the Supreme Court in the coming months. The reasoning behind amending the ordinance now comes after a lifeguard with the local YMCA told City Council she saw a semi-dressed trans woman in the locker room back in mid-October. Sandpoint Mayor Jeremy Grimm says no formal complaint has been filed with the city or the police department for this issue. He clarifies no complaint has ever been formally filed since the ordinance was established back in 2012.
The reason to address it is because presently I don't feel that a small municipality should be making the determination of which genders or those identifying as genders use what bathrooms.
Amy Midstock, a board director with the Sandpoint Alliance for Equality, says this ordinance is more than just who can use what bathrooms.
But it protects also people from housing opportunities or for housing opportunities, employment opportunities, receiving services, using public facilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the reductionist idea that it really is just about protecting people in locker rooms is pretty myopic and narrow. The meeting is set to start at 5:30 this evening. In Sandpoint, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
In other news this evening, a man is dead after jumping into the Spokane River while trying to flee from police. Spokane Tribal Police say officers tried to make contact with a 42-year-old man who had active warrants for his arrest in Lincoln and Stevens County and Minnesota. STP says the man fled from officers near the junction of the Spokane and Columbia Rivers, leading them on a chase. The man then, they say, jumped over an embankment into the Spokane River and did not resurface. The police department says the incident is under investigation and asks anyone with relevant information to contact Spokane Tribal Detectives at that number right there on your screen. A Lewiston man will spend between 25 and 55 years in prison for raping a teenager. 55-year-old Carl Lutonski was convicted this year of raping a 17-year-old girl in 2022. The 25-year fixed sentence ensures that he will not be eligible for parole until he's at least 80 years old. Spokane Regional Emergency Communications, or SREC, is wrapping up weeks of testing on a new AI triage system. The automated answering service will handle non-emergency calls all across Spokane County. KREM 2's Shannon Mowdy explains tonight.
The final live test of this new AI system happened just a few hours ago here at SREC. Soon, when you call Crime Check, the voice you hear won't belong to an actual human.
You have reached Crime Check.
About 250,000 calls come into Spokane County's Crime Check every year. A popular but sometimes misunderstood tool, says Kim Arredondo.
It's well known in our community and we advertise it well, which is good. But what that does is it becomes a one-stop shop for any questions that they might have. And as silly as it might sound, we've had people call to see how hot to cook their turkey at.
Thousands of calls that will now be answered by artificial intelligence.
That call won't actually hit our communications officer unless they need a person.
Instead, an AI bot will ask questions, triaging what needs a police or fire response.
How can I help you?
I'd like to get a copy of my police report.
And saving time by connecting Crime Check callers to the right resource, even outside agencies like State Patrol or Scraps. Nearly 30% of all calls to the non-emergency line aren't active crimes at all.
And so that AI will give them the information they need. They don't have to wait. They get the information and then they can contact the right resource.
But real emergencies do come through Crime Check. More than half of its calls require immediate response. Arredondo says the AI bot is trained to send those calls to a live communications officer.
It's going to free up the lines so we can triage the emergency calls.
AI will not answer calls to 911. It also won't write reports. Trained human technicians will still do that.
There's no way, and from our perspective, that AI could ever replace those people. That's where you get the compassion and the empathy and the understanding and that critical thinking.
SREC expects to roll out this new AI Crime Check before the end of the year. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
All right, let's get our first check of the forecast on this Wednesday with KREM 2's Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoo. Jeremy, it sounds like we're clearing up and cooling down.
Mark, it feels colder now than it did 1 hour ago, but believe it or not, temperatures trend right about where they were an hour ago. 41 degrees is a chilly time to be outside. Don't wear a suit like me. Throw on the coat. I'll have one for tonight. Just left it at home, came in a hoodie thinking I'm fine. I always forget that it gets cold. Here's a storm going by to our south. That storm is going to play a role in what we wind up seeing in terms of cloud cover and morning precipitation. In terms of precipitation, a couple of raindrops down to our south. I think most of those are in south central Washington. We get a little bit of cloud cover, and it's enough atmospheric stirring that we don't have the same fog concern tomorrow morning. However, we still could see a little bit of fog. We're just drying out nicely on the ground, so fog probably isn't likely, but a couple of spots might see it. 45 tomorrow, 44 on Friday, and 47 on Saturday. Our temperatures climb back into the upper 40s with rain returning to the forecast this weekend.
All right, sounds good. Jeremy will check back in with you later in the show. We have more stories coming up on KREM 2 News at 5 tonight. After the break, we look at the latest developments surrounding the growing immigration crackdown. We'll highlight where federal agents are heading to next. And in 8 minutes, we take a peek at the impacts of Spokane's Safe and Accessible Spaces ordinances 3 weeks into the program. And here's a schedule for KREM 2 Plus tonight. At 7 o'clock, we have a new Parent Squad segment where they discuss navigating ADHD at home and explore healthy Thanksgiving meal ideas. To watch that plus much more, just download KREM 2 Plus for free and watch on your TV.